Good afternoon, football fans. We are back with another episode of Football Talk with Hawk. I am Hawk, and I am ready to delve into the current openings that we have in the NFL at the head coaching position and a couple of defensive coordinator positions as well. To start out with, as always, thank you so much for listening. If you're on Spotify, welcome to the podcast. If you're on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the like button. I do appreciate it. So let's get into it. What a shocker. Now, I had said that I could see Vrabel being traded from the Titans to the Patriots, is what I had said. What came out today, or yesterday, by the time you guys are listening to this, was that Vrabel to the Patriots was going to be hard for the Titans to do. They asked. The reporters asked, why not a trade? Why just fire him? My initial question is, why fire him to begin with? What in the world did you expect when you traded A.J. Brown? When you traded who you needed? What did you expect? What were you trying to accomplish? We think you've got the quarterback right. The offensive line absolutely sucks. And now you're going to bring in a head coach. Granted, he does have the 7th pick in the draft. But now you're going to bring in a coach that has to make the decision on Will Levis. Derrick Henry is probably gone. DeAndre Hopkins is probably gone. Jeffrey Simmons very well may get traded, potentially on draft day, to be able to move up maybe if they decide they want a quarterback. I wouldn't. I like Will Levis. Give him a full offseason with a offensive coordinator as the starting quarterback. Don't play none of that. We'll see who's better in training camp junk. Go, it's Will Levis. He needs to prepare as if he's the starter and go for it. But who wants the Tennessee job? Like, legitimately. This is the one we're opening up with. First job we're going to talk about, Tennessee Titans. It's a shocker. We always have one. It's a shocker. We're going to go over some of the rumblings here in a second before we get to the next team. But why do you want to be the head coach of the Titans? You're losing Henry. You're losing Hopkins. Simmons, I'm betting, is going to want a trade. You've got some young corners. You really don't have much in the position. You really don't have much in the position talent. Why would you want to coach the Titans? What do they have? This team embodies Mike Vrabel. Toughness, presence, in your face. You don't beat them easily. Just ask the Colts. Just ask the Jaguars. Just ask the Texans. You don't beat them easily even when they're down. So why would you want to get rid of that? And who's going to want to come in and take it over a team that is very dependent on size and physicality? most of your offensive coordinators are not going to lean this way. They got to build the offensive line. It's not a prime destination. I mean, he makes he makes the playoffs, wins a playoff game, beats Bill Belichick in the playoff game, has back-to-back losing seasons, and I'm like, yeah, so the NFL's hard. Not all coaches that lost are bad. Kevin O'Connell's not in the playoffs. Did Minnesota fire him? Guess I shouldn't say that. We're not done yet. I don't think Dennis Allen is a good coach at all in New Orleans, and it looks like they may be retaining him. Pete Carroll missed the playoffs. It's his option if he comes back or not. Sean Payton just went below 500. Mike Tomlin has never done that. Like, really? Really? I don't get this one. I just don't. The Titan job doesn't look outrageously appealing to me. This looks like a defensive coordinator is going to come in. Honestly, if a defensive coordinator comes in, I know there's the mantra that Bill O'Brien is too old school to make this work. I don't think so. I think for a team like Tennessee with a quarterback like Will Levis, he feels like a Matt Schaub. He feels like a Matt Ryan. He feels like that style of quarterback that doing rollouts is going to work. He's got the rocket arm from the pocket. But if you're able to have the running game and able to do play action rolling out, giving him levels, I think it works. Bill O'Brien, Frank Reich, whoever the defensive coach is, my guess is defensive coach. We've got a lot of offensive coaches that are potentially going to be there. Ben Johnson is number one. We know that. Ben Johnson's number one. I don't know. I don't know. Eric Bieniemy, to me, I don't know if he's going to want. I mean, it would embody what he wants, but he'd have to build the offensive line. He could easily do something with Levis. I don't know. It feels like somebody that's going to need to be big, have a presence, because that's how this team is built. Now, the story that I read and the story that I heard was that Vrabel is very much a presence guy. He intimidates a lot of general managers. So a weaker general manager is going to be easily intimidated by Vrabel. Now, the other part of this is I believe he's a shoo-in for the New England Patriot job. He wanted out of Tennessee. I told you that last week. Vrabel wanted out of Tennessee. There were rumors that he wanted out. He did want out. And the bigger rumor is he's going to be taking over New England, and I fully believe it. Now, what's going to happen is whether or not Kraft makes the trade for Belichick now or later. The Chargers are trying to get head coaching candidates into the area. The Commanders are trying to get head coaching candidates into the area. Bill Belichick is on the phone, or not Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft is on the phone to other owners going, what will you give me? What do you want? Trading Bill, he's under contract. Now, the hard part is the coach does also have to agree, but I think Bill would, depending on where he goes. Do I think Bill works in Carolina? No. No. With Josh McDaniels? Maybe, but no. Do I think he works in Washington with Josh McDaniels? Yes. So let's go to let's continue on with what could be out there. Nick Sirianni is potentially on the chopping block. If they lose the opening game to Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football to end Super Wild Card Weekend, Nick Sirianni could be fired. Philadelphia is not patient. Philadelphia is not patient, and when we go over the Commanders here in a second, there's a big reason why. So that is one team to really keep an eye on. The other team to keep an eye on is the Giants. Wink Martindale resigned as the defensive coordinator. Watch what Dable does. Watch what Brian Dable does. He could resign from the coaching position with the Giants to go take one of the other jobs. That's still there. And then there's mixed reports with Arizona. Arizona management and ownership understands they've got a big draft. And if they don't believe that Gannon is the guy to lead this team, they know they have to make a move. They have to fire him this week to be able to make a move for during the divisional round week. They don't want to be late to the party, as the Titans owner said today. That's why they didn't trade Vrabel, because they didn't want to be late to the party. So I'm still watching Arizona, still watching New Orleans. That's a fluid situation. Definitely going to be watching Philadelphia after that game. Still watching Pittsburgh. Most people think Tomlin is going to buy himself into another year. Listen, he signs that contract and Carolina's open. I'm trading him to Carolina. A fresh start is needed. He's got to be somewhere else, because the team doesn't even feel like a playoff team. They're without TJ Watt. They're a 10-point underdog to Buffalo, and I don't think it's going to be close. They would have lost to Baltimore if Lamar was playing. It's that simple. So those are the teams that I'm watching right now. Watch Dable with the Giants, Allen with the Saints. Still watching Eberflus with Chicago. Still watching Eberflus with Chicago. So there's still 5 that I'm watching. Right now we have Titans, Commanders, Falcons, Raiders, Chargers, Panthers. We have 6. My guess is there's going to be a minimum of 2, or not minimum of 2 to 4 more, but a minimum of 2. Patriots being 1, which we already kind of know who's going to be there. And then I think there is still going to be one more kind of surprise that's going to potentially come in late between these other ones. It's just the way that it looks, the way that it feels. We could end up with 8 to 10 still, as I said. Now, the Commanders. Boy, this team's in a good position. They've got a lot of cap space. They've got 2 defensive tackles that are really good, Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne. They got a secondary that is a lot of rookies. So what? They just need coached up. They've got an offense that has weapons. McLaurin, Samuel, Dotson, Brian Robinson Jr., Rodriguez. They need their quarterback. And they need a coach that will bring them into the position of being able to fight in that division. There is a name, and there is one name, and it is a huge name. There is a name, and it is Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh to Washington makes sense. Josh Harris could offer him $25 million to $30 million a year to coach this team. It has weapons. You get to draft your quarterback. You know this quarterback class. You get to draft your quarterback. You have late round pick capital from the Chase Young trade, the Montez Sweat trade. It works. The Washington Commanders coaching position is the best one, hands down. The second best to me is Atlanta. Why? Because of what Atlanta will be able to do. Because Atlanta needs a quarterback, but I think that can be resolved with Justin Fields, potentially Russell Wilson if he's cut, or my guess is Michael Penix in the draft would be where they'd be able to go. The reality is, the number one spot is Washington. The weapons, the contracts, the way everything's set up, the draft capital, the draft positioning, the ownership. That is the best one. The second one we're going to go to, here we go, Atlanta. Now, Harbaugh does not want to play in the same division as his brother. He's very against playing in the same division as his brother. He doesn't want to face his brother. I don't blame him. Don't blame him. It's going to happen every once in a while, obviously. Teams roll around and whatnot. It'll happen every once in a while, but he doesn't want it to be a constant. I don't think the Chargers have a shot at getting him. I legitimately believe the Chargers should try to get Mike Tomlin or Dan Quinn. 1,000%. 1,000%. They will bring in an offensive coordinator that can help Justin Herbert. They know what they're doing. San Diego lacks toughness, of which both Dan Quinn and Mike Tomlin will bring. Toughness and intensity. And they're going to throw analytics out the freaking window. They're going to play football. And to beat Mahomes, you got to play football. To beat Sean Payton, you got to play football. So Atlanta, being in the NFC, has a legitimate shot at Jim Harbaugh. He can also draft his quarterback. You got Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. You got Van Jefferson that they traded for from the Rams, who looked better with them. Looks better with the Falcons, more comfortable. You've got a young defense that is scrappy with a couple veteran players on it. Good secondary. Okudah was a great pickup from the Lions. He does much better as a 2 instead of a 1. A.J. Terrell is fantastic. That was a great pick by the Falcons. Jesse Bates, the leader, the captain on the back end, free safety. This team works. This is why Arthur Smith was fired. This team works. But you got to get the quarterback. Jim Harbaugh in Atlanta also makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Now, the third best team I'm going to say is probably the Raiders. I know you guys are wondering where the Chargers are at. I like the Raiders. Devontae Adams, Max Crosby. The problem is I'm going to drop them down the list after thinking about it and talking it out just over the last 5 seconds. No, they're really not, because they want Antonio Pierce. So if Antonio Pierce does not get the job and you come in and replace him, you're going to have to go through a little bit of junk. You're going to have to kind of pilfer through some stuff because they're not going to be happy. So with that being stated and said, then I would say it's probably better in Los Angeles. Justin Herbert, you're able to probably keep Keenan Allen. Joey Bosa, you'll get rid of Mack. You're going to have to trade Derwin James. Corey Linsley did announce that he is probably retiring, which is going to save them money. That will save them money on the cap from him retiring. So the cap room is better than what I had originally told you, because Linsley was, if I remember correctly, $12.6 million against the cap. If I remember correctly, between signing bonus and salary. So it will help the cap immensely right away. But I still don't like the way that they're set up as much as I do Atlanta and Washington. Because they've got the quarterback, yes. You've also got a really high draft pick, yes. But they've got enough holes, because now they're going to need a center. They need 3 of the other 4 positions on the offensive line. They're going to need skill position. They're going to need the receivers. Austin Eckler, I don't know what's going to happen with him. They may keep him, may not. You're going to have to make a lot of personnel decisions. And they got to get the new GM first of all. So it's going to have to work. Because there's so many decisions to get under the cap that you've got to make now. That's what doesn't make this as good as Atlanta or Washington, because, yeah, you get Herbert, but you got to make a lot of different decisions just only based off of money, not based off of skill, not based off of what the team needs. You got to make it based off of money and money alone. That's a horrible scenario. That's a horrible scenario. So, with that being said, Chargers are 3. Now we're going to skip down. Panthers are 6. The owner, to me, hair trigger. You're not going to get time. I don't know what candidates will accept the job, because everybody and their brother is going to be telling them, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't take it. I don't know who's going to want that job. We could have another, it could be that really weird year again. You get a coach in there that's going to be, it's a 1-year coach. Maybe Steve Wilkes. I don't know. I don't know. It just, that situation feels so weird. I don't even want to really go into the details with this team. They don't have a first-round pick. Brian Burns knows and understands that he's probably going to be traded. And it's unfortunate, because he could be such a great 34 linebacker, and I hope they get the value out of him, not just because they're desperate. Like, he's worth more. He's worth more than just a 3rd-round pick. I'm sorry, Chase Young was too. But the Washington Commanders wanted to get rid of him. The 49ers offered that. That was probably the best offer they were going to get, because teams didn't want to give up draft capital if they were higher up. And I understand it. But Brian Burns, if he's going to sign a long-term contract immediately, you deserve a 2nd round and a 5th round pick for Brian Burns easily. Easily. Or Brian Burns and a late pick. Like, let's say the Panthers traded Brian Burns in their 2nd. I could see them being able to trade into the top 10, getting their 1st round pick from the opponent, and then their, the later, like a 3rd or a 4th round pick along with that 1st. It's really muddy in Carolina. The owners got a hair trigger. You're not going to be given time. You're going to be scrutinized. I don't like it. It doesn't look good. I'd steer clear of Carolina as far as I could. But We know the NFL, there's 32 head coaching jobs, which means there's only 32 people making head coach money. So somebody's going to take it. They're going to know. They're going to have support. They're going to have support within the NFL from everybody that knows you took the position. You know, you got your money. Good for you. Hope it works. But if it doesn't, we're not going to scrutinize you. It's that simple. All right. So then fifth, to me, honestly, is the Raiders, only because the team loves Antonio Pierce, and you're going to have to pilfer through a lot of junk to get to what you want to be able to do. I don't think the players are going to necessarily be as receptive as you need them to be. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things that could happen. Devontae requesting a trade, Max Crosby requesting a trade. Like, there's just a lot to this. And I think if Mark Davis is smart, he just hires Antonio Pierce. Like I said, I've said this before, give him a 3-year contract. You know, and don't give him the extension early just because he makes the playoffs. 3-year contract and be like, listen, at the end of the 3-year contract, we'll look at it again. And either we re-sign you or we move on. But you've earned the opportunity to show what you can do. Here's a 3-year deal. It's exactly what I would do. And then number 4, flat out, is the Titans. They've got the quarterback part. I think you've got trading pieces. They've got a really high draft pick as well. I don't know who I would put here. This is the problem. I don't know who I would put in Tennessee. Said it earlier. I'm going to keep saying it probably until the position is filled. It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, maybe they find a coach and I go, oh, yeah, that may work. That may fit. And that's probably going to be what happens. Not going to lie. Okay. But something feels off with it. I don't know. Something just feels off. So there's the 6 as they stand. There's the 6 as they stand. Commanders, Falcons, Chargers, Titans, Raiders, Panthers. And the Raiders really is only low, not because of what's there, but because of the fact that I don't believe the players are open to much else right now. They want to be heard. They want to be listened to. And they play hard. Interim coaches don't always work, but when you've got somebody like Antonio Pierce, who's brought in Tom Coughlin, Marvin Lewis, he's surrounded himself with people that know. He's surrounded himself with the experience. The guy just wants to be a coach. The guy can be a good head coach. They were saying it on Fox NFL Sunday when they were going through everything on Sunday. They go, there's this mantra. It's a wrong mantra. They're like, we have to be offensive or defensive minded or this or that. And he goes, Antonio Pierce is technically defense, but he's not. John Harbaugh was special teams. Rich Bisaccia, special teams. You don't have to be that. It's not the requirement. So there's a big aspect to this. And you just saw a rookie head coach with a rookie quarterback win a division that they should not have won. Making the conversation for Coach of the Year even more interesting. Kevin Stefanski gets a wild card spot because, well, his division has the Ravens. But DeMeco Ryans and C.J. Stroud won the division. And it was a 3-way race for that division. The AFC North also completed a feat where all four teams were above 500. All four. We've had years where all four teams have been below 500. So, impressive. And kudos to the coaches there. So let's take a look at the candidates for the last 5, 6, 7 minutes here. Let's take a look at the candidates real fast. So what candidates do you see, or what candidates could we see doing something? Obviously, number one is Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is the goal. Ben Johnson is clearly second based off of the amount of interviews that have been requested of him. Third is easily Dan Quinn. Fourth, I'm going to say it's really close. We're going to go Raheem Morris first, then the offensive coordinator, Ben Slavak from Houston Texans. And Mike Vrabel will get calls, but I think he's going to New England no matter what. Belichick the same. What's interesting is you don't hear anybody saying Brandon Staley or Frank Reich are going to get called. Nobody's calling Josh McDaniels. Arthur Smith is going to go be an offensive coordinator for one of these coaches. If it's Dan Quinn out with the Chargers, oh my gosh. Arthur Smith with Justin Herbert? That works. Arthur Smith with Jim Harbaugh? Oh yeah, that works. I like Eric Bieniemy. He is once again being used in a lot of head coaching searches. Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator from the Ravens. It doesn't always work, but it has worked. Rex Ryan was a good coach. Rex Ryan's a polarizing figure, and I'd love for him to come back to coaching. He is one I wish we could get back into coaching. Offer him $15 million a year, $20 million a year. Bring him in. I said, Carolina to me feels like the place that he could go. He lasted with the Jets. I feel like he could handle Carolina. He'll tell David Tepper straight up, we're going to suck again this year. We don't have a number one pick. I've got to reshuffle the defense. I've got pieces, but I need another year to get more. The guy that takes over Carolina is going to need to have a huge, huge spine. It's going to have that backbone. Because it's going to take that to tell the truth at the end of the day. I don't know what else is going to happen. The offensive coordinator from Tampa Bay has been thrown around. Obviously, Gus Bradley from the Indianapolis Colts. Aaron Glenn from the Detroit Lions, defensive coordinator, but also played in the NFL. The reality is, this got a little bit more interesting with the Vrabel thing because that put a team that nobody really thought was going to be there. Even if Vrabel was traded, they thought it was probably going to be more of an assistant or something, or, I don't think they really thought the Titans were going to go all out for it. Now they're going to go all out for a coach. It changes who's going to be there. I still think the team needs to go get Rich Bisaccia. There's a team that will want Antonio Pierce. if Antonio Pierce is not kept by the Raiders, I could see Antonio Pierce absolutely getting a head coaching offer somewhere else. The way this is playing out is different than what, only a little bit different than what I thought. I mean, I didn't want to fire Arthur Smith. He was done no matter what. Back-to-back 7 and 10 years. Okay. NFC South was weak. At the end of the season, you ended up being 2 games behind, not 1. Not tied. Okay. I'll give you that one. The Patriots are going to sign Mike Vrabel. That's pretty clear. I don't know what other teams are going to be there yet. We're waiting. The NFL has done what they wanted. Originally, it was Black Monday. Everybody gets fired. Maybe one straggler on Tuesday. But everybody gets fired on Monday, and that's it. You're not waiting anymore for people to get fired unless it's a playoff team randomly. Everybody else is done. We're moving on. We're getting in on it. We're getting our interviews done. We don't want to be late to the party. Don't want to miss anything. It's not the way it is now. Can't do anything till after the divisional round, so it elongates everything, and it's giving these executives more time to think, which may not be good. And I do think it doesn't favor the coaches that potentially were safe. That's actually who I think it hurts. The owner thought you were safe. All these firings start coming out, these interviews you hear about being requested, and realizing that maybe you are missing out on something. Maybe there is something to this potential offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator class. Maybe I do want to make a change. That's what it's doing. It's not making people safer. It's actually making those that the owner's like, yeah, I think we'll be okay. It's making the owners rethink that side and go, am I? Am I okay? Do the Steelers want another 10-7 season as the 6th or 7th wild card? Maybe. The 7th wild card seed. Do they want another 9-8, 10-7 season because they want to stay loyal to Mike Tomlin? I would venture to say no. The Steelers are not a playoff organization. Right now, the Texans, the Lions, that's a playoff organization. Make the playoffs. Yeah. You're not getting fired if we make the playoffs. Period. You weren't expected to. The Lions were predicted to. But you got the 3rd seed in the NFC, and in most Lions fans' eyes, you should be the 2nd seed because you got robbed of a victory in Dallas. There you go. That's simple. So, there are teams that are playing with house money. There are teams that are playing with the other players' money. And I think these owners are being given a little bit too much time. Well, it's not too much. I understand it. They're being able to thought process better. So when somebody gets fired, it's because they took their time. They originally only spent 5 seconds on it. Now they're spending 48, 72, 5 days on it. You can make a really informed decision when you've been thinking about something for 5 days, bouncing it off your advisors, general manager, executives, whatever it may be. It's going to be exciting. Like I said, I think there's a minimum 2 because the Patriots I think is 1 no matter what. So we'll be at 7 for this season. To me, no matter what. But there's still a lot of them there. And reality is checking in. Nobody has come out and said, yes, he's our coach for next year. That's what's key. All these eliminated guys, now the Jets, Woody Johnson did come out and say, of course, he's coming back. The Jaguars owner, from last I heard, said he's coming back. I don't think you fire the defensive coordinator unless the coach is getting fired as well. I don't think that move is allowed to be made. So there's that. But let's watch. Let's hang on. Tomorrow night, I'm sure I may have more news on the coaching front. But tomorrow night, we're going to go over the draft order. That is the plan for tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, we go over the draft order, where your team's at, where your team's picking. Kind of have it's not not my official first mock draft, but we kind of have a mock draft-ish about what could happen, what could be, what may take place. And we're going to have some fun tomorrow night with it. Because I do trades with mine. I know there's going to be trades. I know this year there is a big opportunity to be trades. Because the league has changed. And whether it's head coaches or players, trades are a high probability of happening. Guys, that is going to be it for this episode of Football Talk with Hawk. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for stopping by. As always, if you have any comments, leave them in the comment section. I love to hear what you guys think. There's a lot of different things that I've been able to read, that we've been able to go around. A lot of local news, like I've said, that is pretty interesting, to say the very least. But we'll get over and we'll go over that as time goes on. But tomorrow will be the first draft. I'll actually have a graphic for you as the background instead of the top 18 picks, the draft order that currently is. And that will be tomorrow. Thank you so much, guys. This is Football Talk with Hawk. I'm Hawk, and I'm out.